Hey, this is Marcus Washington, MTC Media here in Charlottesville. Yes, it's very, very late as Virginia pulls off a major upset, defeating uh, Florida State 46 to 38. As you can see, I'm still getting stuff together. It has been one heck of a night. It was in double overtime. Where to begin from this game? Because it just seems like it was yesterday when we were in the first quarter. Uh, you know, Virginia jumped out to an early 14-point lead. They were up 14 to nothing. It was almost like Florida State was a little stunned defensively. Whoever did the game planning, whether it was Kitchens, Elliott, a combination of the two, the way they came out and they had Florida State kind of off balance in a way. I mean, it was perfect. They were getting it in the run, they were getting it in the pass, and then the second quarter happened, and Florida State gets 21 in a row, and takes the lead 21 to 14 before right at the end of the half. And this is something that's not talked about enough. It wasn't talked about in the post game at all. The touchdown, the 26-yard touchdown by Jamari Taylor, uh, near the end of the second quarter that tied it at 21 and got them in the locker room tied at 21. It looked like Florida State was going to try to do something on that final possession, and things kind of got squirrely, so they ended up running out the clock. But getting it back to 21 after the turnovers in the second quarter kind of put Virginia back on pace for where I thought they wanted to be, because it did look like, well, this was a great start, going up 14 to nothing, but Florida State's ranked eighth and 21 in a row, and you think this is going to get ugly. But that touchdown near the end of the second quarter proved to be big. Uh, I thought both teams coming out the locker room wanted to run the ball some. It was almost like they were trying to slow the game up, trying to throw some body punches. Florida State came out in their first possession of the third quarter. They ran the ball quite a bit. Virginia ran the ball quite a bit. It was almost like you're testing each other's manhood. But you know, uh, Chandler Morris was able to score. It was 3:45 left in the third. He had a 7-yard touchdown to get it at 28-21 Virginia, and you kind of felt at that point, hey, I don't think the Cavaliers are going anywhere. And then the Robinson, who ended up being so big, the wide receiver, so big for Florida State, he tied it up at 28. Xavier Brown came back on a 15-yard run, gave Virginia the lead, 35-28, and then Pittman with 36 seconds left on a great play by Castellanos, got it tied at 35. And when they tied it at 35 with 36 seconds left, that's one of those points where you say, well, this seemed like an electric night. So much talk about 30 years ago. Everyone wanted to party like it was 1995. Kids had already started lining up on the hill back there. And then with 36 seconds left, Florida State ties it. And you're thinking to yourself, oh, Lord have mercy, what's going to go on? And, they exchange field goals in overtime. And then Morris again gets a touchdown. And then there was, and from my vantage point in the press box with the TVs and everything else, it did seem like Deuce Robinson did not have complete control of the ball on the what would have been the tying touchdown at the time being, or it would have given Florida State a chance to tie the game. I don't know what they said on the broadcast. I just know from there, when I looked at it on TV, it looked like he did not maintain control, and then eventually Virginia gets the stop in order to win the game. And this is probably the happiest I've ever seen Tony Elliott, as much as he was trying to contain it. But what jumped out at me starting out was UVA's running game. The idea that they had so much success running inside the tackles and outside the tackles. Getting them to the perimeter early, letting them work their way to the perimeter. Just every phase, it seemed like, of that rushing game, and every different way that you would like to see it. they were successful at. Virginia ended with 211 yards rushing. Um, Jamari Taylor had 27 carries for 99 yards. Xavier Brown, who I thought was huge, 9 carries for 60 yards. And of course, Chandler Morris's 47 yards, mainly on RPOs, and he had 3 touchdowns rushing. We'll talk about that a little bit later. I felt like Tony needed a signature win, and this is it. You know, you get a top 10 opponent in here in Charlottesville on a Friday night on national TV. And, you know, I know you're tired of hearing me saying this, but man, they're North Carolina State lost away from being undefeated and probably at least getting some votes to from being ranked. But this team is fun. If you guys have not watched Virginia play a full game, this game is fun. They look like they're having fun playing. Chandler Morris, you know, 6 years in college, he's experienced. The 2 running backs, Trell Harris and Cam Ross at wide receivers, even though they didn't have the biggest nights tonight. It all puts this fun offense that you want to watch. I'm sure the high school players want to play in. And Jamal Edrin led the team in receptions. He had 5, Cam Ross had 5, Dakota Twitty had 5, none of them for really, really big yards. But it's just a great team to watch. It's a great team to root for. And it's a signal of patience. The patience that Virginia's administration had with him when you had some tragedies off the field, and slow in really developing and seeing the results on the field. You know how it is in this day and age. They will boot you out, pay off whatever your buyout was, and keep it moving. And this university didn't do that. Now, maybe it's a one-year thing because they're going to have to go back to the portal or have someone who's on the staff already on the roster who can take over at quarterback. But that's a discussion for another time. Tony Elliott, I could tell, was enjoying tonight in the post-game presser, and he deserved it. Not to get to some of the negatives, Morris's interceptions. You know, tonight you saw the good and the bad of Morris. But in a way, Virginia had to have this game like this. No one could play scared. No one could coach scared. And Virginia didn't coach scared, and Chandler Morris didn't play scared. Now, the 3 interceptions were bad. I can understand you're going to have some times where there's some interceptions when you're trying to be aggressive. Those 3 were bad. They were really, really bad. Here's what I will say. The good was good. 229 yards passing on 26 to 35, 2 touchdowns. Obviously, I told you about the rushing yards he added and the rushing touchdowns he added. But the idea that he kept his confidence, you know, a lot of quarterbacks would have been over there crushed. Second guessing what they're seeing, second guessing what they're doing. It's a big moment. This place is loud, and falling apart in a way. And that never happened. Even when they got walked down, you had a coach and a quarterback who still played this game aggressive, like, let's move on. And that played a big part. Now, the defense, and, you know, when I post the post game, you'll see this because Elliott spoke about it. The defense was leaky. Let's just be, and I'm trying to be kind. The defense was leaky tonight. I don't know how Castellanos got away that much. I understand he's good at that. He's a slippery guy, but 74 yards rushing, 254 yards passing. I mean, look, they're a good team, but there was times he was literally running by himself. And that can't happen. I know there was some quarterback draws that were blocked very, very well, but some of that cannot happen. And what can you say about Deuce Robinson? Deuce Robinson is terrific. There was times where there was a guy on him, and he still made the catch. He caught 9 balls for 147 yards. But again, and Elliott kept on saying it, and I agree with him wholeheartedly. In a game like this, your main concern is you want to outscore your opponent. You know this is not a game that's going to be like the perfect game that you win and you hold down this great offense to like 17 points or something like that. And that's what made this one even more impressive. This wasn't the perfect game. You know, we've seen the perfect games out of teams and they end up winning. And, you know, you say, oh, man, they could never replicate that. This wasn't that. This game had all kinds of adversity imperfections, times where you're sky high, times where you're right here. And that's what makes this win so impressive tonight. It really did. So, look, I am going to wrap it up. What time is it? It's 4 minutes after midnight, guys, and I have to be at Georgetown at 8 o'clock in the morning. So I do have a tough turnaround, but I look forward to seeing everyone tomorrow and down the road for both our college football and college basketball coverage. This is Marcus Washington, MTC Media.